Okay, so now this ID is open, and we have created the package for the feature file. So where we have created the package inside the test Java, so I have added the package called as a feature file, and inside which I'm going to add the feature file. So how we need to add the feature file, in the sense you can just right click, okay, and then it will be navigating to the new section. So let's wait for 2 more minutes, as the indexing is happen, it is a bit slow. Yeah, so just right click on the feature file, so you would be able to see the new option, and under which, like, we are not going to create the class or a package, we are going to create the file. Okay, and then, like, we need to create, give some name for this feature file. So, and for the creation of the feature file, we don't have any naming conversion. So, like, you can create as per your wish. So now we are going to automate the Salesforce application, right? So I can say Salesforce login page, okay, validation. So just I'm giving the feature file name as the Salesforce login page validation. And then whenever we create the feature file, as I mentioned, so we should provide the extension as dot feature. So just give the extension called as an dot feature, and post providing the extension, so just click on the enter button. So now you see, so like, the new file has been added. So generally, so this is the logo of the feature file, and how the logo is enabled, in the sense, so as we have added the plugins. So one and only if the plugin is installed successfully, so the feature file logo will be appear in your system. So if this logo is not appearing in your system, which indicates like you haven't installed the plugins. Okay, so now this is
Sorry,
the feature file. Yes,
Aaron, I'm lost at plugin. So can you go over the plugin
what you want?
after the feature file? Can you go over the setting, please?
Yes,
Thank you. Hold on. Setting and plugin. Okay. And hold on. I'm looking for the plugin. Setting and okay, plugin. And what's next? We search for Cucumber.
search for the cucumber. Probably like at the end I will provide the time. Let me just complete this flow and post that. I will just give the time frame. During the time I will try to re-explain.
Okay.
Okay.
Hold on.
Okay, so now you guys can listen the class and post that, you can try it out. For sure I will give the time for today for mapping. Okay, so just I have created the feature file, and then I have just right click and I have added the file with the extension called as an dot feature. So even if I'm planning to add a new file, so I can say sample dot feature. So whenever you are adding the uh, feature file, so the extension should be always the dot feature, and then just click on the enter, so we can add the n number of feature file. So the first feature file which we created, this login page validation, so sorry, Salesforce login page validation. So whenever, like, we
Oh,
create the feature file, so initially we should use the keyword called as an feature. Okay, so what is the need of the feature keyword, in the sense, so we need to specify, so like, what you are trying to validate. So basically, like, we are going to trying to validate the login page. So in a login page, so we may have n number of scenarios, and whatever the scenarios which you are going to automate as part of login page, it should be mapped inside the same feature. So here just we are going to validate the login page of Salesforce. So in order to validate this login page, So we are going to include many scenarios. So the feature is like you are going to validate the login page and post that like in order to check this login page. So we are going to derive many scenarios. So the first scenario, let's say like you are going to validate the error message, and second scenario, let's say like you are going to validate the login functionality. So like whenever we are going to add a scenario, so we should use the keyword called as a scenario. Okay, so just you can try, either you can just pick from the suggestions or you can type fully. So whenever you are using the gherkin keywords, so even this feature and the scenario or gherkin keywords, at the end of the feature keyword, make sure like you are having the uh, colon, and also like after the scenario keyword, make sure like you are having the colon. So and many students what they used to do, so they used to provide the spaces. So better please don't provide spaces after it. So after the scenario, please provide the colon, and then we need to highlight, so what is the scenario we are going to validate. So here we are validating the error message. So we can say like error message validation with invalid credential. On how we are going to validate it, so we need to derive the test steps. So in order to derive the test steps, again we are using the gherkin keywords. I'm using the given keyword, and how these keywords are highlighting in the different color in the sense, so as we have installed the plugin. Okay, so because from the plugin it will recognize the gherkin keywords. So in the given statement, I'm just typing like user navigates to Salesforce application, and post that like we are going to do the user action. So the user action should be done in a when statement. I can say, so like user enter the username and password, and followed by we are doing the one more user action. We need to click on the login button. So whenever there is a multiple user action, so we should use the keyword called as an and I can say, so like user clicks the login button. So whenever we are automating any scenarios, so the final step is like validation, because the end agenda is like we need to validate it up. And how we are going to validate in the sense, with the help of the then statement. So we can say, so user validate the error message. So likewise, so we are going to include a next scenario. So a single feature file can contain multiple scenarios, which means this feature file we specifically designed for the login page. So whatever the possible scenarios which we are going to automate as part of the login page, so we should map inside the common feature file. Okay, so now I'm adding the next scenario. So whenever you are planning to add a next scenario, so we should use the keyword called as a scenario. So before deriving the scenario, so we should always use the scenario keyword. So now let's say like we are going to validate the uh, login page. Okay, so login validation with valid credential. So now we need to again derive the given when then statement. We are going to follow the same steps. So like we are going to navigate to the Salesforce, and then post that like we are going to enter the username and password. But if you see, as part of the first scenario, we may enter the invalid credential, and as part of the second scenario, we may enter the valid credential. So which means like we are going to inject the input. So generally, so the inputs we call it as an test data. So like the inputs which we are using for the testing is called as an test data, and we should also inject the test data. So while doing the test design, so we should specify the test data as well. And how we can specify the test data in the sense, by parameterizing the respective statement. So parameterization in the sense, so like if I'm planning to enter the username, after the username if I add something in the double quotes, so it called parameterization. So we can parameterize the test data in the respective statement. So I can just pass the username and password, and with the help of the scripting we can like easily fetch this username, and we can fetch the password, and we can use it in our coding. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to parameterize the test data. So which means here I'm entering the line user enter the username. So as it is of an invalid credential, let's say I'm just going to have the username as ABC and password as 123. So here, as it is of a valid scenario, I am going to parameterize the test data with the help of the double quotes. Here I am just typing the username as an Aravind and the password as a ABC. Okay, so generally, like whenever we are doing the test design, so if we have any test data, so test data in the sense the input which we are going to use for the testing is called as an test data, and we should like inject the input inside the double quotes, and now we are going to perform the same action. So and finally, so there is a validation, and the validation step will differ. So like here we are going to validate whether it is navigating to the home page or not, or we can say so user verify whether the user navigates to home page. Okay, so these statements, this English statements are purely user choice. So there is no restriction like you should write the statement in this way. So it is purely your choice. So but whenever you are writing any of the statement, so make sure like you are using the appropriate gherkin keywords. If it is of a prerequisite, it should be mapped in the given statement, and the user action should be mapped in the when statement, and the validation should be mapped in the then statement. So now we have done the test design, and post that we are going to map the automation coding. So like for this particular statement, so we will be mapping the automation coding at the backend. So now when someone look on this feature file, so everyone will get to know so like what we have tried to automate, because like as we have written everything in a simple English language, so everyone will get to know like what we are trying to automate, and everyone will have the clear picture, and even if they feel to add suggestions, so they can add the suggestion to it. Okay, so that is the reason like we are using this BDD. So whereas like if it is of an pure raw code, okay, so whereas in TDD approach it will be like purely, it will be entirely coding, it will be a raw code. So whenever it is of an raw code, we call it as an TDD approach. So this raw code can be understand only by the technical person. So that is why like nowadays, like instead of using the TestNG and JUnit, so in every project they are preferred to use the Cucumber BDD, as it is follows the behavior driven development, which is nothing but, so we are going to do the test design with the Gherkin language. So like we are using the keywords like given, when, then, and with the help of the keywords we are going to do the test design first, and post completing the test design, like we are going to map the automation coding. So we are simplifying the automation process, so everyone will get to know so what is the scenario so which we are trying to automate, or what are the things we have automate. So even like the business analyst can provide the suggestions to include any other scenarios. Okay, so that is why like we are always follow the BDD approach, and this Cucumber framework follows the BDD approach. And as part of this Cucumber framework, so it have three important files. One we call it as a feature file, and another we call it as a step definition file, and third we call it as an runner file. So initially like we need to do the test design, so that is what like we are going to do. So like whenever you are going to automate anything, so you should derive the test design first. And how we are deriving the test design in the sense, I will repeat one more time. So like we should add the package, so the name of the package is called as a feature file, and inside which we are going to add a new file. So whenever you are adding any new file, so the extension should be like kind of a dot feature. So one and only if the extension ends with the dot feature, it will create the feature file. And then Suppose that initially like we should use the keyword called as a feature. So at the high level, so you need to justify, so what is the purpose of this particular feature file. So if you are going to like for example, so if I'm going to validate this Amazon, so let us take Amazon as an example. So in an Amazon application, so you are going to validate the home page of the Amazon page. Okay, so I can say home page validation of Amazon application. And as part of this home page, so the first thing I'm going to validate is like I'm going to validate the search functionality. So I can add a scenario. So user validates the search. Okay, so functionality of an application. And how we are going to validate this search functionality. So like we need to derive the test steps, and we are going to derive the test steps with the help of the keywords called as an given, when, then, etc. So the prerequisite, so the given, so the user navigates to Amazon application. So pose that like we need to do the user action. So the user action in the sense we need to enter the particular keyword. Okay, so when, so user enter the search keyword, and what is the keyword which we are going to inject. So we call it as an test data. So let's say I'm just going to use the keyword called as an iPhone. Then I can parameterize the test data with the help of an double quotes. I can just have it as an, okay, so just I am parameterizing the test data, and pose that we may click on the search icon. So even the search icon, so we call it as a user action. So whenever there is a multiple user action, so then we can use the and statement. So user clicks the search icon, and post clicking on the search icon, so we are getting the result. So we should validate the result, and the result should contain the products related to the iPhone. So then we can add a statement. So user validates the result. Okay, so this is what like we have derived using the Gherkin keywords like given, when, and then, and pose that as the next step we are going to map the automation coding. So which is nothing but like yearly we have written the automation coding, right? So now rather than writing all the step in a single class file, so we are going to segregate the coding. So, and another advantage of segregating the coding in the sense, so we can achieve the reusability. So, reusability in the sense, if you observe, like even in this login page of Salesforce, like in the scenario, so we are having the common steps called as a given, when, so these are the three common steps which is available. So which means like we may map the same coding to this given, when, and, which means the given statement can be reused twice, when statement can be reused twice, and the and statement can be reused twice, and we can have the unique coding for the then statement and the unique coding for the this then statement called as and verify whether the user navigate to the home page. So while mapping, like you will get to know the clear picture. Okay, so this is how like we will be creating the feature file. So now as this is for an Amazon, so now let me just rename this feature file. I already told how to rename. So you should click on the refactor, and then we should click on the rename. I can say it is an Amazon dot feature. Okay, so as part of our training, so moving forward, like we are going to stick on the single application called as an Amazon, and we are going to automate the end-to-end flow in an amazon.com or .in. Okay, so in order to do so, so initially we need to derive the test scenarios. So now, does anyone have any doubts? Now the questions are welcome.
For and then you were saying that then we can use once only, but in case there are 2 or 3 validation points, then
So we should keep on adding it up. So that in the further examples, I will explaining it up. So because for easy understanding, I have taken the simple example. So whenever we have the multiple validation, so we can have some generic statement, and at the back end in the automation coding, we can cover all the validations.
okay. So given when and can be as many as when we want, but
Mm,
then has to be unique.
yes, correct. Because the validation should be always unique. And even if you have a multiple validation, so you can add one more keyword called as an and. Okay, because like we can use this and in a multiple places. Either you can club with the given statement, you can club with the when statement, or you can club with the then statement. So let's say in the Amazon, after validating the result, I'm going to validate the title as well. Like if you see the title, it shows Amazon dot in iPhone. So if you observe, like whenever you search with the keyword, so let's say like if I use this another keyword called as a table, and if I click on the search button, at the top the title will be among the same value. So even this is a validation. So if you are planning to include this as well, then you can add the given statement. So user validate the result, and user validate the a title of the page. Okay, so we can add the n number of validation as per our wish.
Okay, I sent you one screenshot as well. Can you check why that is coming? I mean, I see some errors, some under they are being these statements are underlined and they are when I hover over it, it's asking something.
So that is like we haven't done the mapping yet. Okay, so if you just we have written the test design. So till now, like we haven't done the mapping. So like even if I hover my mouse over it, it says
Mhm.
undefined step reference. So undefined step reference in the sense we have written the statement, but we haven't mapped the statement. So post mapping the statement, this avoid will be get rectified. Okay, so you won't see
Okay,
this error message. So
got
even
it.
this is the warning, it is highlighting in the different color for me. If you notice my screen, it
Mm-hmm.
is in the different color
Yeah.
because as we haven't mapped the coding yet, it is showing us the error. So post mapping the coding, like the errors will be rectified. So that is why it shows, if you hover the mouse, it shows the undefined step preference.
Got it. Thanks.
I will, in real time, are you going to add all the scenarios in one specified? How is it going?
So we can add all the scenarios. So even like nowadays, so we will be including the manual scenarios as well, because like in future, like if you are planning to automate, we can easily automate it up. So in the when you take the real time picture, like whenever they give the user story, so you may do the test design, right? So like we may use the same test design in the feature file, and the same test design will be available in your project management tool. So project management tool in the sense whatever the tool which you are using, like Jira or Octane or Azure, so we will be having the same clone over there. And there are few things to segregate whether it is of an automated test case or the manual test case. So still we are yet to optimize it. So there is a some concept called as a tag. With the help of the tag, like we will be segregating those. So probably like we can include all the scenarios, and as part of the user story, whatever the scenarios you feel, you can add all the scenarios, and then we can segregate whether it is of an automation test case or if it is of an manual test case. So if it is of an regression scenario, so you can add the automation script, and if you feels it is kind of an one-time validation, or if you feels the manual intervention is required, then you can consider as a manual scenarios. So any other doubts?
Yes, for the scenario, for the scenario given when, so each scenario we can have only one given, one when, and we can have multiple and then,
Mm,
and
yes.
then.
Yes,
Okay.
so it is better to use the given, when, and then once, and we can use the multiple and. Actually, this is the correct process. But if you refer over the internet, they may use the multiple when, multiple given, and multiple then. So my advice is like, so whenever you are doing the test design, so try to complete the test design in like maximum within the 6 lines, so that like it will give the better readability, and we can map the coding at the backend. So rather than giving doing the elaborative test design, so like instead of writing step by step, so now in our case like we have written in a step by step way. So the reason is like because it is a simple scenario. But I will show you the example in the upcoming session. So while automating one entire scenario, so how I'm going to derive the test steps. So even we can't say this browser invocation as a prerequisite, because like this is going to be act as the common step for all the scenarios. So there is an another concept
Right.
called as an hooks, so I will be keep on adding. So I thought of not adding everything in the day one of the class, so you will get confused. So just for the easy understanding, I pick this example, and in the upcoming classes, so I will keep on optimizing the test design, and we will be keep on optimizing our code.
Under feature file, we can have only one feature file or we can have multiple.
You can
Like,
have the multiple feature file, because like in the real time if you take so you can create either the page wise or the functionality wise.
oh,
So, so you can segregate the
So
features accordingly.
okay, if for example, if there are 10 test cases, so I can have 10 page or in a single page also.
Yes. So if the 10 test cases are testing the same functionality, so you can map them in the same feature file. Or else like if they are dealing with the different functionality, you can create the feature file based upon the functionality wise. So functionality in the sense, we can say there's how we have the in WhatsApp like chat or status. So for you can map all the test case or test scenarios related to the chat in a chat feature file. So whatever the scenarios you are going to derive for the call functionality, you can create the feature file called as a call, and inside it you can map it up, so that even in the future, like if you are in a future, like if you are planning to test any one of the particular page, so rather than go on finding the scenarios, so we can pick the respective feature file and we can run the entire feature file. Got it?
Got it.
Okay.
And earlier I had a problem about the install, but I think I got it because like, so the order of the install, about this configuration, we don't have to go by install by order. That means like because like what happened to me, I did install first, I did install the cucumber, and then I create
Yeah,
the file. I didn't see the correct icon, and then I installed the
that is
gherkin
not an
after
issue.
that.
That's not an issue. Like
Okay.
all the plugins should be present, so it is purely your choice. So
Uh-huh.
maximum, if you have the Cucumber Plus plugin, it will work. So, but for the safer side, I have added the other plugin. And after adding the plugins, so you may able to see
Mhm.
one more logo. So in the right side called as an Cucumber Plus. So if you just click on it, so where you can able to see what are the feature file which you have created.